All right, so we're diving into a topic today that's near and dear to my heart, especially with the next Summer Games coming up before we know it.
The Olympics, right?
You got it. Or, more specifically, the symbols of the Olympics.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and we've got a whole stack of information from Wikipedia here.
Sounds like a real deep dive.
Oh, it definitely is.
I mean, those symbols, they're everywhere, right?
They are.
But most people probably just see them and don't think twice.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to do today. Think twice about those symbols, go beyond just recognizing them and figure out, like, what they really mean, how they've changed over time, and, even some of the drama they've caused.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
Buckle up. It's going to be a fun ride.
I'm ready.
So, like, take the Olympic medals, for example.
Gold, silver, bronze?
Yeah, exactly. You'd think that's always been the deal, but there's a whole history there that most people don't know about.
Oh, yeah. Back in the ancient Olympics, things were a little different.
Oh, so?
Well, there was only one prize. It wasn't a medal at all. It was called a katinos, a wreath made of olive branches.
Wait, a wreath? That's it?
Yep, that was the symbol of victory back then.
No medals, no fancy trophies, just a wreath.
That's right. It was all about honor and glory, emphasizing achievement over material wealth.
That's wild.
It wasn't until the modern Olympic Games that medals became the norm.
Huh. That's a pretty big shift.
Yeah, but you know what's cool?
What?
They brought back the katinos for the 2004 Athens Games.
No way, really?
Yeah, they presented it alongside the medals.
I love that, like a nod to the origins of the games.
Exactly.
So speaking of medals, did you know that for a long time, the Summer Games medals all had the same design on one side?
They did.
Yeah, they featured Nike, the Greek goddess of victory, and the Colosseum.
Interesting. So it wasn't always about showcasing the host city.
Not until 2004.
What happened then?
Well, they changed the design to show Nike flying into the Panathenaic Stadium in Athens.
Oh, I see. To emphasize the Greek roots of the games.
Right, but what I think is really cool is that since then, each host city gets to design the back of the medal.
Oh, that's a nice touch. Adds a little local flavor.
It's like a little souvenir from the games.
I wonder what future host cities will come up with,
Right. I'm already curious to see what they'll do for the next Summer Games.
The possibilities are endless.
Absolutely. But let's move on to maybe the most recognizable symbol of the Olympics, the flag.
Ah, yes, the 5 rings.
But what do they actually stand for?
Well, lots of people think they represent the 5 continents, but that's actually a bit of a misconception.
Really?
Yeah, it was the original idea when Pierre de Coubertin, the founder of the modern Olympics, designed the flag back in 1913, but the International Olympic Committee, the IOC, has kind of moved away from that specific meaning.
So if it's not the continents, what is it?
Nowadays, the IOC says the rings represent the unity of athletes from around the world, no matter where they come from.
Makes sense. It's all about coming together for the love of sport.
Exactly. And speaking of global representation, get this.
Okay, I'm listening.
The colors of the rings, blue, yellow, black, green, and red, were chosen because all those colors could be found in the flags of all the competing nations at the time.
Wow, seriously?
Yeah. It's like they wanted to include everyone right from the start.
I guess that wouldn't work so well today.
Not with all the different countries and flags we have now.
It'd be a rainbow flag.
Pretty much.
So tell me more about when that very first Olympic flag was flown.
It made its official debut at the 1920 Summer Olympics in Antwerp.
Ah, Antwerp. Okay.
But get this, that flag, the actual one, was stolen.
Stolen?
Yeah, by an American Olympian named Hal Haig Priest.
How did he manage that?
Apparently it was on a dare.
You're kidding, right?
Nope. And the crazy part is he returned it 77 years later.
Wait, what? 77 years later?
Yeah, he was 103 years old at that point.
Wow, that's a story for the ages.
It is, but there's a little bit of mystery surrounding it. Some people don't think the flag he returned was actually the original one. The record suggests the original was bigger.
So we may never know the truth.
Maybe not.
Okay, so we've got this one Olympic flag, but then there are also separate flags for the Summer and Winter Olympics, right?
You're right, there are.
How does that work?
Well, each host city gets its own flag at the closing ceremony of the previous games.
Oh, I see. Like a passing of the torch, but with a flag.
Exactly. And this tradition started back in 1952 with the Oslo flag for the Winter Olympics.
Huh. Deal.
They keep these flags in the host city's town hall, like a symbol of their role in the Olympic movement.
Makes sense. A little piece of Olympic history right there in their city hall.
Now, what about the Olympic motto?
Oh, yeah. The one everyone knows. Faster, higher, stronger.
Citius Altius Fortius in Latin.
It's catchy, even in Latin.
Right. It just rolls off the tongue.
So where did it come from?
Well, Coubertin borrowed it from a friend of his, a Dominican priest named Henri Didon.
A priest.
Yeah, and apparently he was a huge sports fan.
Huh, you don't hear that every day.
I know, right? But the motto perfectly captures the Olympic spirit, pushing boundaries, striving for excellence.
It does, but didn't they add something to the motto recently?
They did. In 2021, they added communiter, which means together.
Together. I like that.
The IOC wanted to emphasize solidarity and collaboration, especially in a world that can feel pretty divided sometimes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But some Latin scholars weren't too happy about the addition.
Oh, why not?
They say it's grammatically incorrect.
Oh, no.
It's caused a bit of a debate, like, did they mess with the original meaning by adding together, or is it a necessary update for the modern world?
That's a tough one.
It is, but it raises some interesting questions about how Olympic symbols can change and adapt over time.
Absolutely, and that's something we'll definitely keep exploring as we delve deeper into this topic.
Sounds good to me.
Now let's talk about another symbol with a long history, the torch relay.
Ah, yes, the journey of the Olympic flame from Olympia, Greece, all the way to the host city.
It's such a powerful image.
It really is, but what's surprising?
What?
This tradition, the torch relay, it's actually a relatively new addition to the Olympics.
Really? I thought it went way back.
Not as far back as you might think.
So when did it start?
The 1936 Berlin Games were the first to feature the modern torch relay.
Wow, so the symbol of hope and continuity, it's actually less than a century old.
It is. Kind of makes you rethink things, doesn't it?
It does. So how does it work? They just light a torch in Greece and then carry it all the way to the host city.
Well, it starts with the Olympic flame being lit by the sun's rays in Olympia.
Okay, very symbolic.
From there, it begins this incredible journey across continents, sometimes even going into space.
Space? Seriously?
Yep, it's all about connecting people from all over the world, passing the flame from one person to the next.
That's amazing. It really embodies the global spirit of the games.
And then, of course, it's used to light the cauldron at the opening ceremony.
Right, that big cauldron that burns throughout the games.
Exactly. Each cauldron is unique, designed specifically for that host city, and they often become iconic in their own right.
Like the cauldron from the 2012 London Games. I remember that one.
Or the one from Atlanta in '96.
Yeah, those are instantly recognizable. It's amazing how much symbolism is packed into every aspect of the Olympics.
We got the wreaths, the medals, the flag, the torch, the cauldron.
And let's not forget the music.
Ah, yes, the soundtrack to the games.
There's the official Olympic hymn, which is played during the raising of the flag, but then there's all this other music that's become synonymous with the Olympics.
John Williams has created some truly epic themes over the years.
And then there's Bugler's Dream. That one's a classic.
A lot of people think that's the main Olympic theme.
I used to feel that too.
It's just so powerful. It really captures the emotions of the games, the triumphs, the heartbreaks, everything.
It's like it creates a shared experience for everyone watching around the world.
Exactly.
Speaking of shared experiences, what about the mascots?
The mascots, they bring a sense of fun and personality to the games.
They do.
They make it more approachable, especially for younger fans.
Oh, for sure. Like Misha the Bear from the 1988 Moscow Games, he's iconic.
And those dancing aliens from the LA Games in '84, who could forget those?
So cute.
But they're not just about being cute, they also promote the host city and get local communities involved.
So they have a bigger purpose than just being cuddly and adorable.
Definitely.
Now let's talk about something a little less lighthearted, the Olympic salute.
Ah, yes, the one that's no longer used.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sensitive topic, right?
It is, unfortunately.
So what was it and why did they stop using it?
Well, it was a gesture with the outstretched arm and palm outward, meant to symbolize unity and sportsmanship.
The problem was it looked a lot like the Nazi salute.
Exactly. And after World War II, that association became too problematic.
So they had to abandon it?
They did. It's kind of sad because the original intention was positive, but sometimes symbols can become tainted by history.
It makes you wonder if any of the symbols we use today will become problematic in the future.
That's a good question. But what we do know is that the IOC is very protective of its symbols.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
They've got trademarks on everything, the rings, the word Olympic, and they don't mess around when it comes to unauthorized use.
Like I remember that band, the Hopefuls.
Right. They were originally called the Olympic Hopefuls.
But they had to change their name because of trademark issues.
Exactly. And there was that whole thing with the Redneck Olympics.
Oh, yeah. They had to become the Redneck Games to avoid a lawsuit.
The IOC is serious about protecting their brand.
So, are there any exceptions?
There have been a few, like Olympic Paint.
The paint company?
Yeah, they were allowed to keep their name because their logo has a paintbrush shaped like a torch.
Clever.
And of course, the Special Olympics has permission to use the term.
That makes sense.
The IOC seems willing to make exceptions when there's a clear connection to the values of the games.
Good to know. And what about that international treaty you mentioned?
Oh, the Nairobi Treaty. That was signed in 1981.
What does it do?
It basically protects the Olympic symbol internationally.
So countries that have signed it have to prevent companies from using the rings or the word Olympic without permission.
That's the gist of it.
So no, starting my own Olympic donuts chain anytime soon.
Probably not a good idea.
Okay, good to know.
But, some companies try to get around the rules during the games.
Oh yeah, isn't that called ambush marketing?
That's it.
Like when a company tries to make it seem like they're an official sponsor, even though they're not?
Exactly. And host cities actually have laws against that.
So they can crack down on those companies.
They can. It's all about protecting the integrity of the games and making sure the Olympics benefit from their own brand.
Wow, it's
Yeah.
really a whole legal battle behind the scenes.
It is, but it shows how much these symbols matter.
It's not just about pretty logos and catchy mottos.
Nope. It's about the values and ideals that the Olympics represent.
It's about history. It's about unity. It's about pushing boundaries.
And protecting all of that takes a lot of effort.
Absolutely.
So that's the world of Olympic symbols in a nutshell.
Or should we say in 5 interlocking rings?
I like it.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is. All the legal stuff, the history, the meaning behind these symbols, it's fascinating.
Yeah, and we haven't even talked about everything yet.
True. There's still so much more to explore.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about the Olympic Creed.
The creed.
Yeah, the most important thing in the Olympic Games is not to win, but to take part.
Oh,
Thing.
right, that one.
It's pretty powerful stuff, right?
It is. It really captures the essence of the Olympic spirit.
So where did it come from?
Well, it's actually from a sermon given at the 1908 London Games.
A sermon at the Olympics.
Yep, by an American bishop named Ethelbert Talbot.
Huh, that's interesting.
It's amazing how these words, spoken over 100 years ago, still resonate with us today.
They do. It's a reminder that it's not always about winning. It's about the journey, the effort, the sportsmanship.
Exactly. It's about pushing yourself and striving for your best, regardless of the outcome.
And that's a message that applies to life in general, not just sports.
Absolutely. The Olympic Creed transcends the boundaries of the Games.
It's a message for everyone.
It is, and it's a good reminder as we delve deeper into the world of Olympic symbols.
Okay, so we've talked about the ancient symbol of victory, the modern medals, the flag with its 5 rings, the motto that emphasizes pushing boundaries, and now this creed that highlights the importance of participation.
It's all connected, isn't it?
It is. It's like they're all pieces of the same puzzle, each one contributing to the bigger picture of what the Olympics represent.
It's a complex and multifaceted picture for sure.
And we're just scratching the surface.
We are, but that's the beauty of a deep dive, isn't it?
It is. It's all about uncovering those hidden layers and making connections we might not have seen before.
Exactly. And I have a feeling we're going to find even more connections as we continue our exploration.
I think you're right. Yeah, it really is amazing how much goes into creating and maintaining this whole world of symbols.
It's a constant balancing act,
Yeah.
between tradition and change, global unity, and local identity.
I see what you mean.
It's about finding ways to honor the past while also adapting to the present and looking ahead to the future.
And with the Olympics, the future is always a big question mark.
It is.
So out of everything we've talked about today, what do you think is the most significant takeaway? Like, what should people really remember about Olympic symbols?
That's a tough one. But I think what stands out to me the most is how dynamic these symbols are.
Dynamic.
Yeah, they're not static.
Yeah.
They evolve over time.
Like how the medals have changed?
Exactly, or how the motto was updated.
Or even how the salute was abandoned.
Right. These symbols reflect changing societal values, global events. They're not just pretty pictures or catchy phrases.
They're a reflection of the times.
And that's what makes them so fascinating. They embody the spirit of competition, the pursuit of excellence, but they also carry the weight of history.
They're both timeless and constantly changing.
Exactly.
Which leads to a pretty big question.
What's that?
How will the meaning of Olympic symbols continue to evolve as the games themselves change in the future?
Ah, yes, the million-dollar question.
Right. Like as the world grapples with things like climate change and social justice.
And technology, don't forget technology.
Oh, yeah, for sure. How will all those things shape the way we view these symbols?
It's hard to say for sure, but it's definitely something to think about.
Will we see new symbols emerge?
Maybe.
Will the old ones take on new meanings?
It's possible.
Will there be a push for greater inclusivity in the way those symbols are represented?
I think that's very likely.
So many questions.
So many possibilities.
And that's what makes it so exciting, right?
Absolutely.
Well, folks, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the world of Olympic symbols.
I hope you enjoyed the journey.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from ancient olive wreaths to modern trademark battles.
And everything in between.
But most importantly, we hope this deep dive has given you a new appreciation for the power and complexity of these iconic representations.
They're more than just symbols. They're a reflection of who we are and what we aspire to be.
So next time you see those 5 rings, remember everything we've talked about today.
And keep those questions coming.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep that Olympic spirit alive.
Cheers to that.